Hello, my name is Richard Curtis. Thank you very much for having me on your conference. Just to introduce myself, I'm the writer of a whole variety of very dodgy films that have made Hugh Grant very rich and very unhappy. My girlfriend says that my whole life is based on Hugh Grant falling in love and Mr. Bean falling over. So I want to start with an apology. The second thing, though, that I'd like to say is to praise you. I just remember how extraordinarily the kind of moral parameters of my life were set down by the people who taught me when I was young. I was enrolled by a man called Mr. Boucher into Amnesty International when I was about 13 and wrote lots and lots of letters to a chap called Juan in prison, trying to get him out of prison. That education that I had there was the thing that most profoundly made me aware of the importance of equality and justice. And there's no limit, I think, to how important teachers are in giving people a sense of perspective and what's important in the world. And in the end, I personally have decided that, when I'm not writing the sometimes bad films, I work for an organization called Comic Relief Red Nose Day, which raises money to try and fight poverty. And also I'm a campaigner for the Millennium Development Goals. And what I'm hoping to be part of during the course of this next year is an effort to lay down the new Sustainable Development Goals, the global goals, as some kind of a marker for a new generation of adults and of politicians, but also of kids who are learning, as an amazing and ambitious thing for our time. So I keep thinking that the aim of 2015 to 2030 is that we should be the last generation to be threatened by climate change, the most determined generation to fight inequality and injustice, and the first generation to end extreme poverty. And you, as the teachers of the young, will be the people who make these things really happen. So I'm really glad to be talking to you. 2015 is an incredibly important year because of not only the climate conferences in December, but these new goals. And I kind of love the goals because I feel as though there's a really attractive thing in a plan. They're a to-do list for the planet. There's a way of, in the face of all the bad news, of all the chaos, of all the things that we hear, to actually say, look at this list. This list is a list that really could change the world. These are priorities. These are a kind of practical statement of how we can put our ideals into practice. So what I'm just working with a group of people, we're working on something called Project Everyone. We're working with the UN. We're working with the Global Poverty Project. What we're trying to do is see whether or not we can create in September what I would call as a great opening weekend for the UN's new goals. The MDGs snuck into the world and weren't really famous till about 2005. What we want to do is have a huge Star Wars, Titanic, Avengers, Age of Ultron type opening for these new goals. And so what I'm asking and what we're trying to do is to get the world's biggest lesson happening after the goals are announced in the week, as it were, after September the 28th. And what would be fantastic is if all teachers could think whether this isn't an opportunity to introduce this kind of practical idealism and determination to change the world quickly within a 15-year period. We're just saying on September the 28th, that week, is there anything better that we could do than come up with a plan whereby, well, we could fix the universe one planet at a time, starting with ours. So I'll promise not to write Bridget Jones 3 if you will promise to just give this a little bit of thought. Because if we make a big opening weekend, then, you know, year after year, possibly, we can come up with something, 2016, 2017, to try and hold our leaders to account and embed this as something that one generation really knows about and believes in, which is slightly more important than the next One Direction album. So thank you very much for putting up with me. I'm sure I've spoken for too long, and have a great conference.